Harmonic Reflections is about a piano player who can no longer hear their sound, who ends up meeting a girl who has memories of the future. It may be a short visual novel, but it hits all the right notes, especially if you played Laplacian's previous works or love emotional coming-of-age dramas. Many thanks to Laplacian for a review copy and for showing me a girl in a tracksuit walking up to a depressed boy and saying, "I can fix you." The story follows Aruto, a third-year high school student who has lost the ability to hear the sound of the piano. He struggles to move on, being okay with happily supporting his talented younger brother from the side. However, everything changes when he meets a mysterious girl who claims to have memories of the future. A boy meets girl story, but one that focuses on changing their lives for the better. I've always been a fan of these personal stories about characters losing something very valuable to them. It shows you how they cope with dealing with that loss, and whether or not they can move on or regain it. So, when I found out who was behind this, I was even more interested, because I knew the writer would do a great job. Harmonic Reflections was developed by Laplacian, the same creative team behind Cyanotype Daydream, a visual novel that I ranked as my personal favorite title that I read in 2022. Both visual novels invoke that same deeply introspective feeling, and it's also great at establishing that subtle, intimate atmosphere between the couples. Cyanotype Daydream presented this in a 30-hour multi-layered sci-fi romance story. However, with Harmonic Reflections, you get this as a 5-hour coming-of-age drama written by Ono Wasabi. In that short amount of time, the story comes across very well. However, there is one thing I do have to say. There are some small details in the story and script that I felt didn't serve any purpose in moving the plot and character development forward. It's mostly world-building slice-of-life fluff. Not a huge drawback, especially considering how short the story is to begin with, but it's a small thing I noticed that made my attention waver slightly. What I did appreciate though is Aruto's inner voice. Lots of emotive attention here. The script is really great at describing Aruto lamenting about his struggle and memory loss related PTSD. Seeing that CG with blood on his hands along with his inner narration, you would think he actually killed someone at the piano, instead of killing it on the piano. Speaking of CG/artwork in general, I do have to point out that this visual novel does contain some AI-generated background material. While I found it not affecting my experience reading the story, there might be some who dislike the usage of AI elements. I guess if you are paying really close attention, you can spot the problems. I was more concerned about Sari's facial expressions, for the motivation and intent behind them. Sari's stern and unapproachable at first, but she later reveals to be more gentle, only then becoming even more mysterious by her bold declaration. She's assertive in her determination to pull Aruto out of his rut, in a way forcing him to spend his summer with her, but she's also compassionate and understanding whenever Aruto confesses his weaknesses, and I really like that about her. Although, it's not just Aruto. Her presence and reassuring words helps everyone in this visual novel, future memory sight or not. Eri has her own struggles to deal with as well. As the president of the karate club entering her final competition, she's got a lot of pressure to deal with. And honestly, it feels like it's got nothing to do with karate. Yes, the competition may be the circumstance, but other things are brewing in the background that may be affecting her more drastically. When the confident, outgoing best female friend is out here making pained expressions, you know something is up. And when it's in the face of the new mysterious girl who arrived, well, things are gonna get a bit messy. I do think that Eri comes off as the better and more likable character through her growth and charisma conflicting with her weakness, but at the same time, I cannot discredit Sari's influence being just as important. Now, there are two routes to this visual novel, the other route being unlocked after finishing the game once. I found both pretty satisfying with how it ended. Different approaches in changing Aruto, but both are determined in their own way. Yes, this may have a fair bit of romance in here, a love triangle no less, but fundamentally, at its core, it's about these characters moving on from their troubled past and their previous regrets. And once you arrive at that final chapter where everything is all revealed, you arrive at some pretty solid endings. In fact, besides the two routes itself, I encourage going through the whole visual novel again to really notice the subtle changes in expression and words being said after knowing the full events. Consider checking out Harmonic Reflections, especially if you're a fan of Laplacian's previous works or if you're looking for a short drama visual novel to read. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend checking out my Cyanotype Daydream video over here, or considering watching this video for a wide list of visual novel recommendations. I'd like to thank all my Patreon subscribers for the support, and if you want to support me and my visual novel videos, please consider subscribing. And finally, the real moral lesson being taught here is to always wear protective gear, lest you want to kill your talent.